For some reason, my button stopped working halfway through the show. The running joke is good. Nobody has wanted to work today. You know?
Including the electronics.
Yeah, no kidding. Welcome back, Daily Show. 10:40 is the time on this 18th day of May. Coming up on May the 25th at 6:30 p.m., it's the annual Memorial Day sunset ceremony at Alton National Cemetery. And Bob Baird joins us now. And thank you so much for giving us your time today. You know, your dad came on a couple of times to talk about the event and just to see the passion, you know, and to see, you know, the impact that the event's had on so many people for the last 21 years now is just truly incredible. And to see that continue to go is just really good for the community. I think it's great. And I really hope that the weather's nice on May the 25th.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, CJ. And so, yeah, Memorial Day is coming up, a week from today. And so now this will be the 21st time we will have a sunset ceremony at our local national cemetery. And so 21, a little over 21 years ago, my father, who's a Vietnam veteran, had been loosely involved with VFW and other things. He was running a landscaping business that I was operating or working with part-time in addition to my teaching career. And so he said, we really need to go down and do something at the National Cemetery. So he and I led a cleanup effort where we came down and just, because there was a lot of overgrowth, a lot of dead tree limbs, and some of it unfortunately was laying in the grave area of where the soldiers are buried. And so we did probably several days, up to a week there, where we cleaned it up, and it made a big difference. And then from there, his energy was then we also need to have a ceremony here every Memorial Day, and recognize the fact that this is a really important piece of our country and our history here locally, and that again, Memorial Day is the appropriate day to have a ceremony there annually. And so, and he also was looking for a way to bring attention to the fact that this needed regular cleanup and maintenance. It had become part of the Department of Veterans Affairs, so bring it to their attention that this needed more focus. And so also then to kind of highlight the event is why he chose the sunset aspect, because at that point, and to our knowledge at this point, there aren't other sunset ceremonies, and so that uniqueness also was kind of put in there to help draw attention to the ceremony. Well,
and I think it's such a great bookend too for Alton in general, just for Memorial Day, to have we just had Steve and Greg on from East End talking about the Memorial Day parade, and some say it's the oldest, most continuous, some say it's second. Who knows? It's one of the oldest in the country, and to have this in the morning, and to have the sunset is really, I think, just a really beautiful way to honor the area's fallen. Especially on Memorial Day, and take me through the organization component of this, because there are featured speakers at the event. How many are a part of this to really kind of rally the troops, so to speak, to get the event on that night?
So really the organizers are myself and my mother, mother, Teresa O'Connor. And so my father had done this for 19 years, and he always said to us, when I'm gone, jokingly, you guys are gonna have to make sure this continues. And we always kind of laughed it off, said, well, you're not gonna be gone anytime soon in our minds. And unfortunately he passed just before last year's ceremony in April of 25. And so, we obviously took the ball and carried on. And so, he had built a great program that evolved over the years, but, in large part, we kept that program moving forward. And so we always certainly want to have a person who has served our country provide perspective. And so he himself was a Vietnam veteran, but there was always other speakers that were invited each year. This year we have local Air Force veteran Joseph Boston's going to speak. And Joe will reflect on Memorial Day, what it means to him as a veteran and American, and put in perspective, I think, for all of us. And that's, of course, a good reminder about what Memorial Day is. I think a lot of people confuse Veterans Day and Memorial Day.
All the time,
certainly Memorial Day is a great day to thank a veteran. Always thank a veteran anytime you see them for their service. But Memorial Day's focus is, of course, on those that gave their lives in service to our country and in the name of freedom. And so certainly there's no one more entitled to honor and respect than those that did that. And so that again circles back to the why, the fact that we didn't have a ceremony happening here locally, and having, again, speakers that they themselves served is part of the process. We also always like to tie in with local schools and students. So we'll have students sing, recite the Pledge of Allegiance. The Alton High ROTC will be there to provide the color guard, and also do The Saber Salute. Again, local musicians also certainly want to include a kind of a prayer for religious aspects. So there's always a preacher or a minister invited to come speak. And this year, again, it's Alton Mayor David Goins, who
Fantastic,
has that, of course, in his background as well and part of for who he is. So we appreciate Mr. Mayor being there. And so we would invite, again, all folks from the community to come that night. It'll be on rain or shine, unless severe weather happens. That would be the only thing that chases us. So 6:30 on Memorial Day. We would encourage you to bring a folding chair if you want. We'll have 50 or so metal folding chairs, but those aren't real comfortable. So bring your favorite lawn chair that night and come out and join us. It's about a half hour, 45-minute service. And the VFW will also be there to provide the gun salute. And again, patriotic music will be taking place. But again, this all circles back to, what is this place? Well, in Alton National Cemetery, there's only 170 of them that exist across the country. And so in Illinois, we have 10 of them, which actually makes us the second most of any state. Virginia is the only one that has more. And our local National Cemetery started because of our Civil War connection with the local Civil War prison that housed Confederate soldiers. And so it was the Union soldiers that were guarding them that were unfortunately also contracting illnesses that the prisoners were contracting, and some of them died. And so most of the original burials there were guards from that prison. Wow. But then there were also comings and goings of ships throughout the Civil War up and down the river. And so there were a few more soldiers who had died, I think, that were also got included in the burial there. And so, and then in the years after the Civil War in 1870, there were a few more Union soldiers moved there. And so it was all oversaw at that point by the Alton Cemetery Association. And so the Alton Cemetery kept up the graves, obviously, because, there were soldiers buried there. And so eventually, though, national cemeteries began being created, and this was kind of an in limbo situation. And so by the time you fast forward to close to World War II in 1938, so all that time, that 60 plus years, the Alton Cemetery Association had maintained it. But then moving forward in 1938, they decided they wanted to offer that land to the federal government with a condition that they add a rostrum and that they maintain it. And so the federal government accepted that, put into place one of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal programs. The WPA actually built the rostrum. And so that was completed in 1941. And then they moved a few more Union soldiers. I think it was close to 50 that were, at that point still scattered in other places. And so then at that point, that kind of became close to the final number. So most of the soldiers that are buried there are Civil War era and a few World War I and World War II. Then, and you get into the post-World War II era, there were a few more additional graves. And those folks had to kind of have some, obviously a local connection, but a special kind of permission to be married there. So our cemetery is actually one of the closed national cemeteries, but it's managed by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, who also oversee Jefferson Barracks. So that Jefferson Barracks site oversees the Alton National Cemetery site. And so they'll send a couple representatives who we appreciate will be on hand also on Memorial Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so
it's just incredible. I mean, really to hear, and I think so many times Alton's in the Riverbend has so many unique characteristics and unique things to it. And this is totally one of them, and I think so, we think of other, individuals that are buried at the cemetery or, the monument or you name it. But to really start and go back and look at just like the transfer and how that process was, and just to see, the importance of the cemetery too, it really shows you that no matter where you turn, there's really just some real historical significance in so many portions of where you live. And from two perspectives. The major one is to honor our nation's fallen, our area's fallen, on the 25th. But also just to shine a light too on just, again, the importance of the area, and really, how important it was for your father, and now for you guys to carry that on to really, protect that and to showcase that, because it truly is important for everybody in the area. Mm-hmm.
And the residents of Alton as well, and all those in between years, and the Alton Cemetery Association, all those, past generations of people saw that as something, of course, we have to continue to maintain that. And then we got into those, for whatever reason, those limbo years where 20, 25, 30 years ago, there wasn't attention happening. And, even though there were only, a little over 200 graves there, they weren't getting the attention. We had, overgrowth happening. And so Jefferson Barracks folks needed to be reminded that, hey, that, of course, is a significant site, but
Right.
so is this one. And so since then, it's been much better. And we've had the ceremony every year. And, what's happening is, or what should happen is happening, providing recognition and, memorial and honor to those who gave their lives, and doing so, in a reverent way.
Absolutely. And, is there any way that area organizations or businesses can, reach out and say, hey, I'd like to contribute to this, either next year, this year, or just keep helping the event grow?
Absolutely. They can reach out to me anytime. I am the principal at St. Ambrose Catholic School. My email's on our website for St. Ambrose, or personal emails rbaird7467 at icloud.com. Message me anytime. And so, but we'd be happy to have any more. And so also throw out a thank you to Miller King, who is the sponsor, helps provide for the programs every year.
Really
so thank
cool.
you to Miller King. But yeah, if anyone has any ideas to improve this and to honor our folks that have given their lives for our country, please let me know. Reach out to me anytime.
Fantastic. And, with that being said, Alton High School just came on the show too for their flag swap. Just a mental note too, because they're having their flag swap. But do you know what date that is?
Yeah, that's this Thursday, and so it's this Thursday from 6 to 6:30. So a short little presentation in the Alton High School auditorium, and so it's just kind of good instruction for all Americans, how you properly fly and care for your flag, and kind of how you fold that. And they'll also, if you have an older flag that needs to be replaced, they'll give you a 3x5.
Fantastic. By the way, your mom was a great teacher. She was my teacher at Alton Middle School.
Appreciate
And
that.
it was
She's listening. She
really?
appreciates that.
And I think it's really quick too. Not really, but your dad was just fantastic. He gave so much to the community, from PA announcing to these types of events, and really just really was a bright light and really an example. I wanted to tell you that.
Thank
too.
you. He was very community oriented, and he would love now that this Memorial Day sunset ceremony even has a Wikipedia mention. It says sunset ceremony in there, so that that connection's there even nationally now. So he really appreciate that. So thank you, CJ.
We'll take a quick break, and we're going to come back and wrap up Monday, but we'll link everything in a write-up on RiverBender.com, and see you there on May the 25th, 6:30 p.m. with featured speakers, including Mayor Goins, National Cemetery representatives, and Joe Boston, the Air Force veteran, along with more presentations, patriotic music. We'll link it all, and we're going to come back and wrap up the show. My button stopped working, and it's throwing me off right after this.